All right. Welcome, everyone, to Real Raw Health with your host, Nikki Burnett of Taste Life Nutrition, and myself, Matt Rowe of Parsley Pet. During our show, we are talking about your pet's health, raw feeding, and the health our pets bring to us with love. And you know what? Nikki and I do end up talking a little bit about human health too, because we're both passionate about that. And could you not?
Nerds.
What's it? Because we're nerds?
Nerds.
I'd much rather be a healthy nerd.
I know, me too.
So today, what are we talking about today on the show, Nikki? I'm excited.
Well, so what I told you I put in my calendar was fat dogs.
That's how you reminded yourself that today was all about why my dog is overweight. You had fat dogs in there.
I put
Well
fat
done.
dogs.
Yeah.
Speaking of fat dogs, I was driving down the road yesterday, and corgis, how cute they are and how low to the ground they are.
Yes.
And there were two of them, and
Yeah.
the family was walking with the two corgis who were probably twice the size they should have been. So the bellies were on the ground, and it was like not quite on the ground. That's an exaggeration, but they were so fat, and I just went, oh man.
Yeah.
I just want to say we can do something about this. Let me help you.
Right. Your dog can get healthier in his belly. You don't have to clean it every time you go for a walk.
I know. Oh man. Well, that's why we do what we do, right? That's what I need. I need a card. I need a Real Raw Health card. And I could have thrown it at him.
He's throwing it, but just tell you, I'm doing a Facebook Live tomorrow. Just watch the show, all right?
Yeah.
In this show, it's not about shaming anybody or saying that your dog overweight is that. What we're talking about is it's out of, at some point, with everything that we have been taught for all of these years about what we're supposed to feed our dog, and we go into the vet and you've limited the portions and you've done everything you can to get your dog as healthy as it can be, and your dog is still putting on weight, and you can't figure out some of those pieces. Now you could say, okay, I feed my dog off the table. That's what it was ever since I was a kid. Don't feed your dog off the table. Don't feed your dog off the table. Your dog's gonna get fat. And I'm saying it's not you feeding your dog off the table that's making them fat.
Right.
If you're feeding like hamburger buns and all that kind of stuff, but if you're taking a piece of meat off the table and you're throwing it down, that is not making them fat.
No. The only thing that we want to be aware of, and I feel the need to put this out there, we don't want to feed dogs from the table, because then it just creates bad habits, right? I mean, that's really all it is. But, I don't even let our dogs in the kitchen because they make me crazy. These 3 dogs just all around me. I'm like, get out of the kitchen. But yeah, and it's true. I actually saw one time, the dog food bowl with the kibble in it, not here, somewhere else, over at a friend's. Dog food bowl, kibble in it.
Turn on me, did you, Nikki? Come on, you're killing me, girl.
But in the dog food bowl was a half of a hot dog bun. It's like
a bun,
a half a hot dog bun. I'm like, this is not what we do. No. Please no. And what do you say? And of course I didn't say anything, but
right.
And they know how I am. So I can't say more than they know. So anyway, it is what it is. But it's one of those things, we give dogs food, and it's not human food, right? Because it's food. But we give them appropriate food for them.
Yes. And remember, your dog has pointy teeth because they're carnivores and they eat meat. They don't eat hot dog buns.
They don't eat hot dog buns.
Yeah, no chocolate, no gummy bears, no hot dog buns, no any of that. So you're thinking about it is on that side of, if they can't grab a hold of it with their pointy teeth, they can swallow it down. I've seen Leo swallow it. It's amazing how big his throat is.
It is easy, isn't it?
How they suck it down so fast. Well, I mean, imagine a dog in the wild. I mean, if you have a pack of dogs fighting for food, it's called eat as fast as you can. But we're not in packs anymore. They can eat but they have this instinct to just eat whatever you put out for them. And so, we have to use some discretion as human beings. We have opposable thumbs, and we have a prefrontal cortex that can layer logic. and reasoning on top of things. So yes, like we have that ability, and I think we should exercise that ability with our dogs to say, is this right? Is this wrong? And
Mhm.
if you don't know, they have big canines in their mouth for a reason,
Yeah,
because they're meant to eat rabbits and squirrels and other, decaying animals, as disgusting as that is. But yeah, they're
it's
scavengers.
true. It's true. Yeah. And that's what they're built to eat. You feed them what they're built to eat, and they're going to be lean and mean. But you start adding in, even if you're feeding raw, if you start adding in too many carbs, like sweet potatoes, they can do some sweet potatoes. It's fine. But if you do too many sweet potatoes, if you do too much rice, which they don't need rice, please don't give your dogs rice. They don't need rice.
Lots of arsenic.
Lots, what?
It has a lot of arsenic
A
in it.
lot of arsenic. Yeah, and there's just nothing to it for them. People are like, okay, they need a diet with just a couple of ingredients because they have an upset tummy or they're sensitive or whatever. So it's like, okay, fish and rice or chicken and rice. I'm like, no, please. No.
And why is that? So when you make that statement and you say no sweet, limit the sweet potatoes, and I feed my dogs pumpkin and sweet potatoes, but in, not a big amount, like a tablespoon. But why? Why is rice bad? Why is these types of food bad? What is it doing?
So it increases their blood glucose for one. So it's going to increase their blood glucose, which is going to increase their insulin,
Mhm.
and all of those things. It's just that's what makes them fat. What's what makes them pre-diabetic and diabetic. Dogs aren't supposed to have pancreatic issues. They're not supposed to have pancreatic insufficiencies. And I mean, they're built just to eat meat and then a few little other things thrown in, but it's not starches. And these foods that are good for us, and I would say rice isn't necessarily good for us, but sweet potatoes certainly are. We're built to eat these vegetables and these starchy foods, sweet potatoes and peas and things like that. Those are
Yeah.
how we're built. We have a much longer GI tract. I think our acidities, we're not as acidic as dogs are, in the stomach.
Hmm.
And they take food in and they get rid of it very quickly, whereas
Hmm.
ours sits. And so going back to the carbohydrates, that's just not how they're built. So they don't process it well, and they don't have the enzymes that are necessary to break down vegetable matter, even vegetable matter, which we would think is good. They don't have that, which is why we have to break it down for them. We can't expect them to go chew a carrot and it's gonna be broken down, because it's probably going to come out the other end in just big pieces and parts.
Yes, it does. It looks
Yeah,
like, oh my God, there's a carrot again.
yeah.
Um, yeah, you're right. It doesn't break it down. But if you take a look at the starch matter, so let's say you fed a hamburger bun. So your dog eats a hamburger bun, and on that, it is gonna process very quickly because that short digestive tract, but they convert to sugar
Hmm.
as quick as they can, and they have that insulin response. And that's why we had a show last week about diabetes in dogs. And that was, you know, also, well, I'm looking at it. No, we haven't had the diabetes one yet, have we?
Well, we talked
No.
about inflammation. We talked about sugar. We talked about sugar. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
that's it. Yeah, because we talked about sugar in there. And this is just really what's happening. And so, because of that short digestive tract, and a half of a hamburger got bun for us is like nothing. Now, let's say you have a 50-pound dog that is 100 pounds less than you are. Holy cow, half a hamburger bun is huge.
Mhm.
That's going to have much more of a larger impact than it would for us on those cases. But yes, your dog's converting it to sugar, having the insulin response. And so now, if you continue to do that, your dog is naturally going to put on fat because they'd had to. I mean, look at ancestrally with your dog in the wild. Your dog was, scavenger, opportunistic feeder. They would feast and famine based upon what they killed or what they came upon and found. And so in that mode is they were used to not eating for a little bit. So, and they were constantly running and moving and exercising and going out and doing their dog things that they did in the wild. which was highly, highly active, and they had to stay alive. And then when they came upon food, they gorged on the food that they did find in order to find, wait for the next meal. Now, living with us, they don't do that anymore. I'm begging my children to go walk our dog when my wife and I are at work.
Yeah.
You look at that, they're not getting that same level of
Mhm.
exercise that they would have experienced. And then also they're getting regular meals every day. I know
Mhm.
my dogs get 2 a day.
Mhm.
And so with that, when you're looking at putting those types of things in, this is really what's starting to catch up to them. And, you're looking at the wrong meals, the wrong foods, and the foods that have a high amount of sugar, but it's the repetition of the amount of sugar that they're consuming. And do you think this is starting to point to why dogs are becoming overweight and having more incidences of diabetes?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's the, and more so because so few people, I mean, we're getting there, but so few people actually feed raw. So even if they're feeding wrong, then, that's one thing, but it's more about the kibble and the high starch content in the
Mhm.
kibble, plus the inflammatory reaction that it creates when they eat this kibble, because kibble is
Right.
inflammatory, just period. And so what's the basis of disease? What starts disease? Well, it's inflammation, right? And
Right.
yeah, so everything, any disease is going to be based in inflammation. And so
Mhm.
um, we're going to go over a food here in a little bit, but we
Mhm.
can look at foods, kibble, that we believe to be healthy food. And I'm looking at this one in particular with it's got real food in it. I mean,
Mhm.
it looks like it's got real food. It's not food, but it looks like real food. We're like, oh, this is really nice. But all of it is super starchy. Why? Because it's cheap and it's a
Mm.
filler. And
Yep.
dogs need protein, they need fat, they need virtually no carbohydrate.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're just not designed to break that down and use it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think when, if we start to, I was actually talking to some friends last night about all of this, and it's really fun to see the reaction on people when I say, your dog is supposed to eat food. You're like, you're talking people food? Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Which is just food. And so he's kind of
Right.
going through the whole thing, and they were blown away. It was really fun though. It was a really amazing and fun conversation that we had. But they were like, we got to know how to do this because we've never heard of this, and we love our dogs and we want to, treat our dogs. And
Mhm.
the young girl is a vet tech and wants to be a certified vet tech. And like, we need to talk because you can touch a lot of people. And
Right.
so I love that. I love that. But people are so surprised. And so when we're feeding raw, we want to look at mostly meat. We want to look
Mhm.
at bone and organ because those are going to give them the nutrients, additional nutrients that they need that's not in muscle meat. The
Right.
bone's going to give them their minerals. And so those are the most important things that we can do. And then, you and I have talked about this. We'll do some kelp or spirulina or
Mhm.
something like that. We'll do some ginger. I'll supplement periodically. We just had one of our girls spayed. And so for her,
Okay.
she's getting some good liver support because she was under
Mhm.
anesthesia. And
Yep.
so that's really, really important. So if you give, annual vaccinations, they're going to need liver support. I'm going to say we
Mhm.
shouldn't give annual vaccinations unless they're puppies. And if you have chemicals in the house, we want to help their little bodies to detoxify
Yep.
and get those proper nutrients. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to give an overview of what it looks like to feed raw because I know that people get really overwhelmed by it,
Mhm.
and it takes a little bit of a habit change. It's much more than scooping, but I say this all the time. It takes me between 5 and 10 minutes to feed three medium-sized dogs. 230
Yeah.
and 150-pound dog, and so it doesn't take very long to feed them at all. You
Mhm.
just got to create the habit and understand what it's about, and it's really very, very simple.
Mhm. Yeah. Like yesterday, I made 7 days of food for both of my puppies or both my dogs, and I just put it in the freezer. And then we just cycle the food
Yeah.
containers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so when you're really looking at this, And it's a mind shift change. Is you at some point, I had to shift what I thought about what it took to feed a dog and feed my
Mm-hmm.
dog. And
Yep.
so, and with some support and with some individuals that I spoke to, and as they kind of guided me along, like if you're in town here, Raw Dog Food Company is great. Dee Dee Mercer, she'll walk you through and make sure that you feel comfortable in not only your habit change, but also in what's the right food to get for my puppy.
Yep.
And so really when you're walking into that is go slow, go slow, go intentional. And when you're
Mm-hmm.
stepping into that space, you can start to change that habit. It is definitely, it's not impossible. And for the expense side of it, 20% more, 15% more in some
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah.
And that's where, I mean, how often do you take your dogs to the vet when they're sick?
Yeah. They get a checkup once a year. That's about it.
You guys see that pause that she gave in there? And as she tried to think about the last time she took her dogs to the vet, that's what happens. When
Yeah.
you're feeding your dog correctly, they don't get sick.
Mm-hmm.
They are healthy. I mean, I have a 14-year-old Chihuahua that is on the verge of killing me every evening. And still at 14 years old, he's still spry enough to kind of come after that. Now,
Yeah.
in all those cases, it's just because they're actually, their body is absorbing the right nutrients that they need to have
Mhm.
from the foods that they're eating, because that's the only way that they can actually receive minerals is from food that they're eating. So we were going to talk a little bit about what is in a bag of dog food, what is on the ingredient panel that,
Mhm.
I mean, really, so if I'm buying dog food, what am I in? I'm buying kibble. What am I
Mhm.
really feeding my dog?
Well, I chose this particular one. This is Kirkland's, which is Costco. I hear people buying Costco food all the time.
Yep.
Costco dog food. But it's their organic chicken. I think it's organic chicken and rice, or I think that's what it is. Organic Nature's Domain organic chicken and pea formula. So the reason I chose organic is because people tell me that they buy the best dog food that they can, that it's always organic, and that which makes it expensive, more expensive. And I think this is for, how much is this? So this is almost $73 for a 30-pound bag.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there. A
Yeah.
30-pound bag of dog food.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2, episode 3, we talked about rancid fats.
Yeah.
I've never seen, even with your 3 dogs, it'd take you what, a week and a half to go get through a 30-pound bag of dog food?
Probably. I'd have to think about that. I guess I don't know what their portions are on here, but yeah, maybe.
No
Yeah.
matter, you're going to leave that bag open for longer than 5 days, the
Mm-hmm.
fat went rancid. So now you
Mm-hmm.
just introduced another toxin into your dog's diet
Yeah.
because, yeah, you can't get through a 30-pound bag of dog food. Now, granted, I haven't done that for years,
Right.
but
Yeah.
if you have a bag of dog food, 30-pound bag of Kirkland's dog food, any kind of dog food,
Mhm.
and you've had it for more than a week, the fat is rancid in that food.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
sorry to
Really
interrupt you.
important. If the fat's rancid, it's then very likely carcinogenic, right? And
Yep.
so we're dealing enough with cancer in our dogs and in ourselves. We don't need to make it, increase the incidence, increase the chance of cancer.
Yes.
But yeah, kind of what I wanted to throw out there on top of that. So great point is organic. What I say a lot is I don't care if you're paying $500 for an organic kibble for 5 pounds of kibble, it's still toxic. It's still damaging. There's nothing good about any kibble out there. I don't care how much you pay for it. Right. It's just all different variations of bad. So this particular one, I lost my ingredients. There it is. So it starts with, it sounds great. So I'm going to read some of these off to you. Organic chicken, organic peas, organic lentils, organic garbanzo beans, organic sweet potatoes, organic potatoes. So those are mostly that's the top portion of it. And we'll get into
Mhm.
some of this other stuff in a minute. But the organic chicken, wow, that's amazing. Great.
Mhm.
But then everything else is a starch. And those are
Right.
all the ingredients listed. That's a hell of a lot of starches,
Mhm.
sugars that dogs don't need and don't want.
Yes.
It's too much. It's way too much.
And I bet you if you did the carbohydrate calculation, that is, you're sitting at over 45%
Yeah.
carbohydrates with that mix.
Yeah. I didn't calculate it, but yeah, I think I'm sure you're right. Yeah.
I
It's a
mean,
lot.
if you're a food producer, and this is Kirkland's organic, if you're a food producer and realize based on AVCO standards, and AVCO sets the standards of what is the requirement for nutrients and vitamins and that nutritional profile within dog food, which I think they're tainted by big food industry. And so I'm not a big AVCO fan. There's better
Mhm.
ways to calculate that.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, AVCO has actually lowered the requirement on protein in the
Mhm.
diet. So now, Kirkland, being a business, a very large business, they are doing the minimum amount of protein they can get away with inside that in that bag of dog food.
Yeah, so it's the minimum amount of protein, but it's not near enough of the requirement that a dog actually needs. Would you say 80 to
Right.
90%
What
protein?
requirement for protein?
Yeah.
22.
No, I'm sorry, not the requirement, but what dogs actually need. It's 80 to 90% protein.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
predominant with protein that comes in. And they realize that actually feeding raw is not a high level of protein. It's everything else, all the bioavailability of all the nutrients and everything
Yeah.
else in it. That
Right.
is really where it gets its
Mhm.
strength. Why raw is so good
Mhm.
is when you look at that, yes, a dog does require 80 to 90% of
Mhm.
protein inside of its diet. Um, but that's a ratio based on how much food, not the total requirement on all of it. But when you're looking at it, is when a diet consists of over 40% carbohydrates, this is going to have an insulin response trigger.
Oh, yeah. 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 And then you do it every day, however many times a day. It's
Right.
really, really hard on a little body.
Yep. And
Um, Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, if it was a singular event, I fed kibble food to my dog and my dog got sick and threw up right away, we'd immediately in our brains go, oh, I'm not feeding kibble anymore. But
Yeah.
when it happens over a 5-year period, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden they start throwing up, we're like, oh my gosh, what did he get into? Why is
Mhm.
this happening?
Mhm.
Why is this going down this road? Because we never traced it back to the
Yeah.
initial moment of when you
Mhm.
began feeding kibble.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so moving on, the next ingredient on here, which makes me cringe, makes me crazy, organic canola oil. Mm.
I've got my druthers on canola oil. I think it should be against the law to actually put canola oil in anything. It actually thins the lining of your stomach.
It's bad, bad news, and highly, highly inflammatory. I had my radio show this morning, and so we were talking about cholesterol and how, the American Heart Association is still pushing canola oil as heart healthy when, especially, on patients who are extremely, extremely sick with massive cardiovascular disease, diabetes, all of these things. And they're saying, yes, canola oil is actually heart healthy for you, and what it's doing is it's killing them. This is literally killing people, especially who are already severely inflamed, which are those
Right.
people. Yeah, it
Well,
sickens me.
yeah. When's the last time you had a canola salad?
Well, if I did, I didn't know it.
You didn't know it. Like we don't.
Yeah,
We don't eat the
yeah,
leaves of canola. At least with avocado oil, I eat avocados. I know that
right.
that is good, healthy fat. And you look at olive oil. I have olives, and you look at
Mhm.
it. You can trace it back. I've never had a canola salad. I've never
No.
had canola leaves drizzled over top to create my canola. No, you're
Mm-mm.
not. It's not
Mm-mm.
there because it's something that is very cheap to produce, and
Yeah.
it meets scientifically like the fat requirements, but at the end of it, it's still something that's undigestible by us.
It's toxic. It is so freaking toxic. It hurts my heart when I see this. And again, so many people buy this stuff. So get this. So the next one over is organic sunflower meal, then organic canola meal.
So now they're grinding it up and turning it into a powder.
Mm-hmm.
That's sick, Nikki.
It is, you know, and a lot of people know this. It's from canola oil, is from rapeseed. It's a seed that animals and insects don't eat because it's toxic as just a seed. Yeah. So it's awful stuff. So then we have organic flaxseed. Fine. What is that? What's that doing? Maybe it's a little bit of fiber. Are they putting it in there because it's supposed to be an omega-3? Well, so then we can dig into flaxseed is not, it's a precursor to omega-3, like the usable form of omega-3. It's actually called ALA. But ALA must be converted into the usable form DHA and EPA, which is what's the usable form is from fish in most cases, right?
Right.
So the ability to convert ALA to EPA and DHA is really, really inefficient, both with humans and with dogs. My bet actually is dogs don't have the ability at all because it's not something they're supposed to eat. I don't know that to be the case. Obviously, their genetics are different than mine. I know our genetics, for one, it's an inefficient conversion. For two, genetically, we may not have the ability to convert at all. So again, my bet, I don't know, but my bet is they don't have the ability to convert at all, because why would they? Because they eat meat where they get their omega-3s. So anyway, that's my thought. Next one is natural flavor, which I don't even want to know what that is, because natural flavor is never good.
So natural flavoring, when they put natural flavorings, it can be one of 108 different chemicals that have been outlawed in Europe. So when you look at that, natural flavoring is just one of those things that is created in a lab, and they just want to make it taste right. And so they add that in, even for human food. Definitely watch a package and make sure that if it says natural flavorings, we think, oh, it's natural. No, natural is a word that they're allowed to use.
Marketing.
There's nothing natural about it.
Yeah. So in human food, I don't know if it's the same here, but for humans, natural flavor typically means MSG. A lot of the times means MSG, which is monosodium glutamate.
Yep.
So I want to make a point here, and maybe this can be dogs as well. I don't know, but I think it's an interesting point for humans, maybe for dogs. So MSG, glutamine is converted to glutamate, which is then converted to GABA. So glutamate is excitatory, and that's kind of when I go through the pathway, I go up because it's excitatory. And then GABA is calming. So what happens for a lot of people who are sensitive to MSG is that conversion from, are you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That conversion from glutamate doesn't, there's the enzyme that converts from glutamate to MSG is, it's either not there or it's dysfunctional or whatever the case may be. It can be due to, I think it's usually due to genetics. But that conversion doesn't happen. So you stay in that excitatory state. So you get nervous and anxiety and all of these things when, you know, you don't have, when it doesn't convert. And, you know, we have a lot of dogs who have anxiety, who have, you know, they get excited and they're excitable and we don't know why. And we can't calm them down, besides the fact that maybe they're not getting enough exercise. But is that the same thing that could happen? Can the same thing happen to dogs? I don't know why it couldn't, but I don't know that to be the case.
Right. It's biological, but yeah, I've always attributed MSG as a neurotoxin.
Exactly.
Where it's going to go up and excite the brain. And and I'm with you. Like I'm not really sure what the effects of MSG is on our animals, but I do know that anything biological at that standpoint is going to somewhat try to administer that MSG the same way. So if it becomes excitable in us, I would imagine it's going to become excitable.
I certainly think so. Yeah, if it's a neurotoxin for us, you would expect it to be the same for them. Yeah. So, all right, so let's move on, move through some of this. So organic pea protein, Then we move into the amino acids. And so we talked about this last week or a couple of weeks ago that amino acids, typically in dog food, are synthetic. And so it's frustrating because when things are synthetic and put into the body, usually the body doesn't respond well or doesn't even know how to respond because it doesn't recognize it. And so you think about synthetic vitamin E. So they have in here, it's another one, they have vitamin E, but it doesn't tell us what form, which is what always makes me go, tell me what form it is, and then I'll believe that you're doing the right thing. And it doesn't, it just says vitamin E. So my bet is it's synthetic. The body doesn't know what to do with it. It's really frustrating. So moving on, it does have some kelp, more minerals, and then we get into the vitamins. Most of those are going to be synthetic. We know the vitamin D doesn't tell us what form. Folic acid is synthetic, period. We want folate. It says vitamin B12, it's going to be synthetic. So, you know, again, it goes back to, and I said this earlier today too, is looking deeper, really understanding the rest of the story, because this isn't the full story right here. This isn't telling, and I'm sorry, I have another monitor over here, so I'm looking up at it. But you know, there's always more. There's always more, whether it's a condition you're dealing with, if it's ingredients, if it's whatever, if it's a whole list of ingredients, there's usually always more to it. So we always want to ask why, we always want to ask what, we always want to dig. The answer isn't you need a drug. Typically, not always, but typically the answer isn't you need kibble. It's we need food, we need real nutrition. And that's what's going to keep most of the drugs away anyway, for all of us, including the dogs.
And I like how you said real food, real nutrition. If we start feeding ourselves and we start feeding our dogs the way they were meant to be fed, and the foods that make them feel good, we start to see their health improve. And we actually allow their body to repair. Their bodies are their bodies are a beautiful machine that is always trying to stay in a state of homeostasis, which is health, is in that thriving state. Because if you're not, you don't reproduce, you don't live, you're not your genetic line, which is what we are really wanting to have propagate for years and centuries to come. Doesn't happen if I eat bad foods.
Right.
I can't do that, then all of a sudden that goes against everything that was intuitively is my mission to do. And so, and your dog is really meant to be healthy. I mean, have you ever helped a dog that was out swimming and they couldn't swim very well, and you go swim out to them and you grab them and you help them? They think you're going to drown them. So what do? They attack you. They fight you. They try to bite you because they don't know what you're doing. But I mean, this is something that same response to protect themselves in water, they're wanting to have that same response as well. And so their body is constantly fighting to keep them alive and keep them healthy. And so by feeding them that raw-based diet, you're allowing them to live in a state of health instead of a state of pain or an inflammation or being overweight.
Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect. Perfect ending.
Well, thank you, Nikki. So what's the best way somebody can get a hold of you? Because you have so much amazing stuff happening here in the next month that I'm so excited about. So tell everyone about you.
So I am pretty much everywhere. I'm Taste Life Nutrition. So the website's tastelifenutrition.com. Any of the social media is going to be Taste Life Nutrition. I am trying to get things going and get out there more and more, which has been a lot of fun. I do have a fun little picture that we put up recently of one of my little pups, Aspen. She's kissing my nose. One of my favorite pictures. I have an amazing photographer, Kaylin Acquisto. I have to put it out there because she did such a great job with these photos. And so the biggest thing is the course. So we are just getting closer and closer to being able to launch this. There's still stuff to do, but we've created a 5-day challenge that kind of leads into the course. And so it's a free 5-day challenge to get a feel for what it's about and what we want to do and how we can help. And it's a co-creation between me and two good friends and referral partners. They're neurologically based chiropractors. So they're at Wild and Precious Optimal Living. I want to throw that out as well because they're awesome at what they do. And And that's it. So we're trying to just get that going and get people into this little free challenge that we're doing on October 5th. What I should have done is put up is have a link. I have a bit.ly link, but maybe I'll do that next week. But anyway,
Okay.
so it starts October 5th. You can always go to my Facebook page. It's all over the Facebook page. And if you want to sign up, it's going to be a really cool course. I'm super stoked about it. So yeah, that's where we are.
That is awesome. I am looking forward to it as well. I got to remember to sign up for your 5-day challenge. So anybody watching, sign up for the 5-day challenge with Nikki. Take the next steps. Even if you don't do anything else, I know Nikki, and I know the value that you're going to receive from just taking a 5-day challenge is going to blow your mind. You're going to sit there and say, wow, I didn't realize I could feel this good. And it's going to create so much awareness. And I know that on some level too, it's not going to be this huge, oh, you can never eat this again, or you can't do this again.
No.
She's going to give you that awareness. So you make that choice for yourself.
Yes,
No, I want to
absolutely.
eat this because that makes me feel good. And I don't want to eat that because I feel like crap at the end of it. So yeah, so that's why I'm excited. I love your philosophy and I love what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so sweet. Yeah, I
So,
appreciate that. So yeah, you have amazing stuff. So
oh, thank you. You don't have to.
You do. I'm super excited about what you do. I just love it.
And it's fun. And this is where we get to see what actually is happening inside your dog's body from the foods that they are eating. So with all of that is we want to test 48 different minerals and nutrients inside your dog's body and see what they're lacking and see what they may have too much in, because nutrients are the Goldilocks principle. It's ideal is right in the middle. So definitely you can always find us at parsleypet.com and order the Nutritional Blueprint, because then you will know, am I doing it right? Am I feeding my dog the right way? And this is based on also taking a look at parts per billion on the nutritional levels within your dog. So this gives you numbers and that objective viewpoint to say, oh, it's not somebody's, theory or opinion or scientific research. This is really kind of what's exactly happening inside my dog.
Yeah, it's data.
Yeah, it is data. And once you have the data, you can make incredible decisions to keep them happy and healthy for years and years and years to come.
Data is power. It truly is. And it empowers you to take the right steps for your dog. It's good stuff.
Amen. Well, thank you, Nikki, so much for the show today. I had a blast. This is awesome. Really good information, and I'm still not stopping gummy bears, but that's okay.
Oh, we all have a weakness, right?
We all do. We all have our vices. We just don't know where they're all at. All right.
Oh,
let's see you, Nikki. Talk to you soon.
Bye, guys. Bye, Matt.
Bye.